Former five-star Flory Bidunga is in the transfer portal. Can Darian DeVries bring him home to Indiana?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. This is a bonus episode on a weekend, so we appreciate you being here. For those of you that have those notifications turned on audio or video, you are here first, so thank you so much for that. As we have some news in the transfer portal, a former five-star player from the state of Indiana who escaped the hands of the Hoosiers. Flory Bidunga, the freshman from Kansas, is leaving Kansas and is now in the transfer portal. It was reported earlier this morning that he was going to enter, and according to Joe Tipton, he is in the transfer portal. You remember this kid. He is from right here in the state, former five-star, top 15, top 20 player, no matter what site that you look on, when he was a high school senior going into the college game. And if you remember, there were big name programs in for Flory Bidunga, ones like Duke, some like Auburn, and of course, Kansas as well. And a lot of people thought he was going to end up down at Auburn with Bruce Pearl. He then ends up going to Kansas last minute with Bill Self. Now, Flory Bidunga in his freshman campaign there in Lawrence had 6 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. He did shoot it at almost 70% from the floor, an average on the defensive end, 1.5 blocks per game to lead all players on the Kansas Jayhawks. And so some of you may say, well, he's not that good. He's maybe a bust. He didn't play out how they thought he would. I just don't think that's the case at all. I really, really don't. I think Bidunga was playing behind Hunter Dickinson, who is a former All-American who came back to play another year at Kansas. I think he also, when you look at his game logs, I think Bidunga dealt with a lot of foul trouble. He didn't play a whole lot. He only averaged like 16 minutes a game this year with the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, even to be a relevant bench player or a productive bench player, you're thinking 20, 25 minutes. That just didn't happen for Bidunga this year. And so I don't know if Kansas told him you're not fitting here or whether he said, to heck with this. I was supposed to be the guy and it didn't work out. Couldn't tell you. We don't know that information, and I'm not going to act like I know that information. But what I do know is Indiana did not get him the first time around. Indiana didn't sniff him the first time around. And that's because Mike Woodson was our head coach. He didn't make an impact. He didn't care. And kids in the state just didn't come here very often. We know that that's not news to any of you. I think Flory Bidunga is somebody you have to make a call to if you're Darian DeVries, the new head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, which, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, we currently have 0 players on the roster. There's nobody here. They've either graduated or they've left in the transfer portal. So you got to start somewhere. And Flory Bidunga is one of the biggest, if not the biggest names in the transfer portal. We did an episode on Friday here on Locked On talking about Denton, the New Mexico kid. He committed to UCLA, and that's a big pickup for Mick Cronin out there in Los Angeles. And while he's a guard, yes, and Bidunga is a big guy, I'm just saying big names are in the portal, but big names are also leaving the portal as well. And so I think Bidunga is a perfect fit for the Indiana Hoosiers because while we're looking for every position possible, we need big men. And Bidunga's a big guy. Remember, he is 6'9" and 220 pounds now after just finishing his freshman season in Kansas. He is in the transfer portal. Question is, can the Hoosiers bring him home? I'll tell you what I think here very early in this process, right after this, on this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode, this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers, is brought to you by Fabric. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You can be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. As a parent, if you are one, you want to make sure that your family is financially protected no matter what happens. Fabric gives you that peace of mind. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedonconference. That's meet, MEET, fabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Prize Picks. Baseball season is now in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place to play daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less than on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. This week, I'm looking at multiple hitters. Jump on the New York Yankees, man. Apparently, they just hit home runs. All they do is hit home runs. I think they just broke their single game franchise record today with 9 home runs or something like that. You could have jumped on Aaron Judge to be a part of that. I think he hit 3. You jump on that, Prize Picks is going to get you helped, and you're going to bring home some big bucks. So do that with Prize Picks, okay? Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, time to run your game. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Daylight Savings. It may have already happened a few weeks ago. I'm still not recovered from it, and I'm sure you're not as well. Or maybe you're just staying up too late watching all these tournament games, or maybe you are staying up late to watch West Coast baseball. Whatever the case may be, 5-Hour Energy, they've got your back. Whether you're staying up late, or you got to work late, or you didn't sleep good, or you got a long day, whatever the case may be, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. With the on-the-go convenience, one of my favorite parts, right? Whether I'm at a game or I'm traveling, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab. It keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, my favorite, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your front door. And if you need one right now, grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They are everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5-Hour Energy. Welcome back into this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here as we are talking Flory Bidunga, the freshman who is transferring from Kansas, who is a former standout superstar in high school here in the Hoosier State. And while we talk about somebody like this, the question is, okay, can Indiana legitimately land this guy? Can Indiana bring him home to the Hoosier State? I think we can. I'm not saying we will, because this literally just happened. And look, there's not a whole lot of, I guess, direction on this right now. The early feelings is that somebody like Auburn is going to be right back in the mix because they were expected to get him the first time and it didn't happen. But Indiana's got to make a push here. And if you are DeVries, think about the impact that this could make. Think about the shockwaves that you send throughout the state, throughout the conference, and throughout the country. If you go and get this guy, you could do something that Mike Woodson never did. You could do something that he was never able to do, or let's just be real, never even wanted to do, it seemed like. which is go get one of the best players from the state of Indiana, who I still think is a really good player. Don't get hung up on the offensive numbers, okay? He was somebody that Kansas would throw several lobs to, bounce it down low. Is he going to make just the craziest plays by himself? No, not yet offensively, but I think there's room for him to grow. And where he is his best is on the other end of the floor as a defensive threat. At 6'9" and 220 pounds, the guy's a unit. The guy is a beast. He's a tree down there, and he averaged over a block and a half per game. He had 2 in their NCAA tournament game. This guy can play, and he is a menace on the defensive end of the floor, which I think Indiana needs, and I think Darian DeVries wants that on this squad. Now, let's talk about the obvious for a second. It's going to cost you. If you want to go get Flory Bidunga from Kansas, it's going to cost you big. You're going to have to pay him NIL money because not only does he want some, he's going to want a lot. And I don't know the numbers yet. Haven't seen anything, haven't even heard anything yet. My guess is it's going to be very, very lofty. I'm totally guessing here. It's going to be 1 or 2 million, if not more. And that's because of what he was in high school and what he still thinks he's going to be. Do you think that's fair based off of his stats? That's up to you. You can tell me in the YouTube comments if you want to. I'm just telling you, he's a hot commodity. And when you're talking about teams like Duke and Auburn who were in on him first, yeah, it's not going to be cheap. So Indiana needs to make a run. Will he come here? I don't know. I think he should give us a look. I think he should check it out because it's a completely new coach. It's a completely new staff, and there's just more money here than there's ever been. So maybe it works out and maybe it doesn't, but you got to take a look. If you're Darian DeVries at Flory Bidunga, the transfer from Kansas, 6'9", 220 pounds. Again, he averaged 6 points a game, 5 rebounds, shot 70% from the floor, and averaged over a block and a half per game. Defensively is where he shines, and his offensive game has all the room in the world to grow. Could you imagine what he could do here at Indiana? He could be one of the superstars in Bloomington. He could represent the IU brand so well as one of the best players right now in the transfer portal. All right, well, that's going to do it for this quick bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Just wanted to get in here, talk about Flory Bidunga and why it makes sense for Indiana to go after him and why I think it makes sense for him to consider Indiana. We'll talk more on Monday about him, other players in the portal, and maybe something breaks between now and then. If you're listening on audio, very quickly, make sure you turn on those notifications. This is why I tell you to do it. You don't want to miss bonus episodes just like this one. Be sure you do that. Leave us those 5-star reviews, however you can help us out. Really do appreciate that. And if you're watching on YouTube, like this video, hit the thumbs up, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below. Is this somebody you want Darian DeVries to go after for Indiana? Let me know if you think it can happen. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, okay? Have a great rest of your weekend. We're back with a full episode on Monday. All right, Hoosier fans, so until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.